we're gonna build a character. So, what's your idea?
Thinking druid.
Okay.
A hippie. That's about it. That's about all I've got.
Fairly simple framework, so you've got a class is what we have.
Yes.
And the druid in Pathfinder, I think will lean in really well to that. You have your nature-loving kind of wilderness mage of a sort. In Pathfinder, they are full 9th, 10th even level casters with just as much magical capacity as a wizard or a cleric. But that does not stop them from being able to step to the front lines if they wish with the omnipresent wild shape turning into giant animals or just something as simple as a shillelagh shield in hand.
This all sounds great. I have zero complaints about this so far.
So tell me a little bit more about how you would see your druid performing. What kind of powers do you imagine?
I imagine kind of subtle powers, except when absolutely necessary, than flashes that you could possibly have.
Okay. So as a druid, the main thing it's gonna kind of help you shape the core of what sort of character you are, and the root of your powers is called your order. For what you want to do, you give me two main ideas. First is the Storm Order, which is exactly what it sounds. Power over the natural elements of lightning. 0 to 100 instantaneously, just like a thunderclap. The other is a bit more of your hippie. Those are the two words I have to work with. Side of this, which is the Leaf Order. A druid who has a particular affinity for plants and vegetation, natural lush forests and jungles, to the point where you have a small little plant child familiar that follows you around called a Leshy.
I have a plant son?
You can have a plant son.
I have a little plant boy? I got a ficus man?
Sounds like a leaf order, perhaps, is what you'd like?
I think I'm leading into my little plant boy. Absolutely.
And a Leshy can be anything that you can imagine within the plant sphere. It could be a little ficus man, it could be a tiny palm tree, it could be a coconut,
Can
a pine
I just
cone.
have Toad from Mario? Can I have Toad from Mario? It's my partner.
Mushroom is one of the core archetypes of Leshy, absolutely.
Yes. I will. Alright, new goal. I'm gonna become Princess Peach.
We got something called the ABCs, Ancestry Background Class, and right now we've got class. Let's head over to background, as I think that's going to be relatively simplistic.
Okay.
So outside of the context of being an adventurer, delving in dungeons and fighting monsters, what does your druid do? What is their background? Where do they come from?
I pictured. Okay, well, if they're gonna rule a kingdom,
Are they... Right.
if they're gonna rule them,
We have direction now.
Yes, they have to have some nobility in them.
Fair enough.
There has to be a knowledge of that. So maybe I pictured them living in the woods at the moment, but maybe they're from.
But they're not from the woods.
No, they're from a noble family, and they're the weirdo son.
Then depending on where you want to put your focus, I guess we have two options there. If you want to focus on this sort of royal background, you could just literally have been a noble. Your noble blood and your upbringing would make you more of a charismatic character, which is a degree of useful to druid as your wild empathy feature that allows you to speak somewhat empathetically with animals and nature is entirely dependent on your ability to interact with them like they're a person. Charisma could definitely help out. On the other hand, you could go with a nomad and skew it a bit more recent. It would help you to boost your wisdom a little bit, make your spells a tiny amount more potent, help you out with your perception, your ability to track and survive in the wild as well. Either one of them, I think, would fit perfectly.
I think if this guy is going to go from 0 to 100 for spells, we'll want to boost up that with the wisdom. And if he's the weirdo son, the less nobility in him, the better, because then he can make his own kingdom.
Nomad it is, then.
Absolutely.
So the last thing we have left to decide, then, is your ancestry. Doing the ABCs backwards here. The CBAs.
If you will. If I could be so bold to say the CBAs.
And this is simply which one of the various sapient races of Galarian that your druid will happen to be. If coming from nobility, honestly, there are a wide variety of options, whether they could be most traditionally probably a human or an elf. There are plenty of dwarves and even halflings these days ingratiated in those societies. No small number of gnomes and half-orcs have worked their way up the ranks, even though half-orc and half-elf or half-whatever now can be a subset of anything. They're not their own race. You could be a gnome, half orc. You can be a gnome, half tiefling. With tiefling, we can go crazy, but let's not for simplicity's sake. Not right now with the tutorial.
Alright, we'll calm down. Calm down.
But the only ones I would see having maybe a hard time fitting in with this whole noble background setup is really goblin. Which you can make anything happen. There are no insignificant numbers of goblins who have tamed their wild, explosive, and pickle-loving ways to integrate into society and become...
I'm sorry. Did you say pickle loving?
Yeah.
We just really breezed over that, and I want to circle back to that really quick. Is
Goblins.
this a thing?
That's very much a thing, yes. Unfortunately.
Are they just little pickle men? Okay, as a druid, if I can control mushroom men, can I control the little pickle
You could
men?
be the noblest little... You could have a pickle leshy. Like, that is... You're... Really, the leshy is, like, unbound. This thing can be whatever you want it to be.
This is a good game.
Funniest thing I've ever seen.
I do picture this as a tall, lanky elf. Are elves in this like Lord of the Rings elf or like Santa's little helper's elf?
Elf is not your decrepit little house elf. Don't worry.
Okay.
These are your tall statured, your lithe elven kind, your several 100-year living, like deep ancestral roots.
So this,
kind of
I
elf.
think
It
going
is
that for nobility's sake, then that would make the most sense.
perfect. So. In the world of Pathfinder, no ancestry is a simple monolith, and beyond simple elf, you will get a bunch of choices as to what kind of elf you are and what sort of powers and abilities that they get just from the circumstances of their birth or their upbringing. In Pathfinder, these different, almost sub-ancestries are called heritages, and I think the two that would fit the best for you are either a woodland elf, your roots go far back, possibly even generations into this natural side of things at some level, and you are much more at home in the forest. That makes you not only easily able to scamper around in the trees or across vines, but also able to protect yourself by taking cover in any kind of forest terrain, even in what would be largely an open space to other characters. The alternative options to lean a little harder into the magic with something called a seer elf, which makes you natively able to use almost just natural blood magic to detect the presence of other magic around you, as well as giving you a bonus to attempt to identify ancient magical writings or scripture.
So, what was the first one?
Woodland elf.
Or blood elf?
Seer elf.
Okay.
We're gonna get there.
I heard blood and I kind of tuned out after that.
Well, just like the native blood magic. There's nothing really like blood about it. It's just like it's a spell that you have as part of, well, your ancestry, almost your physiology. It's innate to you.
Okay.
Magically
it's
attuned.
in my blood. I don't use my blood.
No, you're not.
So I don't like cut my hand open and make a little patch of
You can
mushrooms
flavor it however you want.
like a little emo kid.
But either the forest-loving woodland elf or the magically attuned seer.
Okay, I feel bland saying it, but let's do the woodland one.
It fits.
It fits the hippie vibe.
Fits in really well.
And if he's gonna rule the Mushroom Kingdom, he needs to understand the mushrooms.
And he's only starting with one mushroom right now, so he's got a lot of ways to go before he gets to the
But
kingdom.
I have faith in this man.
And that sounds like a character to me, my friend. We have something together here now.
This is good. Fleshed out, ready to rule, has a son. What else can I need? Has a little boy.
You've got a little mushroom boy to join you on your adventures. You might have to pick him up when you're fleet stepping. He might have a hard time keeping up with...
What father would leave his son behind like that?
He's small. You've got the strength to do it. It should be easy. And that's how easy it is to create a fun character.
Yes.
Yes.
We don't have an outro for this yet.